first one is Ryan Adams' Gold. On this album, it's an amazing album, came right after his first solo record, Heartbreaker, and it has on it New York, New York, the infamous track, that video for which was filmed right in front of the World Trade Center right before 9/11. So Ryan's arrival in New York to kind of chase the myth of the city coincided with an incredible rebirth of music, which is chronicled in the book, but it also coincided with this horrible tragedy that he had sort of inadvertently aligned himself with in terms of the image of the innocence of New York City pre-9/11. So this album is amazing and beautiful and also poignant. Oh my god, okay, so this is the IA's Master EP. You can tell because it says Master right here. I love this. Karen is my hero. One of the things I love about her is her swagger and sense of adventure and kind of experimentalism, if that's a word. She has talked before about her love of Missy Elliott as kind of the ultimate star icon, and I think you don't really hear it necessarily in the AA's music, but in terms of their iconography, their sense of grandeur and playfulness, this sort of like reference to the kind of hip-hop gold chain culture, this is how they started off. I mean, this was like the first Yaya's EP, and here it is, and she looks like a kind of indie, an indie thug or something, but also a girl. So I was just completely obsessed with her. I was completely obsessed with this EP. It has on it Bang, Mystery Girl, Art Star, Miles Away, and then Our Time, which was an alternative title for this book. I considered it calling it that because it's just such an anthem for this entire era. Love you, Karen. Oh. Okay, so this is TV on the Radio, Return to Cookie Mountain. I mean, is there a better band in this whole story? Like, just, I think they get sort of put off to the side a little bit, or sort of elevated to the side or something in the history of New York rock during this period, because they're their own thing. And, you know, the TV on the Radio guys had so much to do with so many of the other bands that came up during this era, from Yeah-Yeahs to Liars to, you know, many others. There was definitely an interweaving of their thing with everybody else's thing, but they're kind of outliers in that they were doing this experimental, musically sophisticated, emotionally fraught stuff, art, way before the Brooklyn idea was basically invented. I mean, they're kind of responsible for it. I'm not sure they'd like to hear it that way, but they kind of are. So anyway, I love this album. I play it a lot. It's one of the ones from this era that I really return to and find that I kind of crave from time to time. Master fell over. So I picked Nirvana's Nevermind for this selection too, because this is probably the only album you can guarantee every single person in this book owned and loved. It's the last great era of American rock and roll was grunge, and part of the whole idea, part of the reason nobody thought that leather jacket cool was ever coming back was that Seattle had been the kind of definitive aesthetic of rock and roll in the recent past for all these kids growing up in the 90s as teenagers. So Nirvana, flannel, you know, rainy weather, that was what the kind of aesthetic of rock and roll had been for most of these kids, who then went on to make this like weird serrated angular guitar rock. So everyone wants to say that it was the Velvet Underground and Television and those kind of New York bands, Blondie, that influenced the Strokes and Yeah-Yeahs and so on, and to some extent that's probably true, and certainly they were picking up on the legacy of that. But this was like, for everyone in my generation, this was like the album. I remember listening to it in carpool in 6th grade on the way to school, and the guy who drove my carpool would turn down the volume whenever Kurt said fuck. Okay, so this is LCD Sound System's very first song, Losing My Edge. I believe it's DFA record #1. The B-side is Beat Connection. These two songs have entire chapters in Meet Me in the Bathroom because they are so, so crucial to everything that has happened with DFA, to everything that has happened with James Murphy, to the kind of invention of dance rock in the modern age. James wrote this as kind of a testament to feeling outdated, which you basically were not allowed to say. You're not allowed to say, like, I'm worried about all these kids coming up from behind and being cooler and more interesting and better musically educated than I am. But he said it, and it turned him into a rock star. So let that be a lesson to you. Okay, finally. Oh, this is the Libertines Up the Bracket. So I love this record. They're as an American girl, in love with the Strokes, in love with the Yeah-Yeahs, in love with New York City, in love with everything that was coming out from that period of time. Interpol, incredible bands. There was this sort of, I mean, it's how everyone has felt between our two cultures over pop cultural history, but there was this kind of romance about England. I mean, I was such an Anglophile, and to see the sound that was kind of around me as a kid on the Lower East Side being reflected back from England by these like cool, kind of cute guys with weird accents was just beyond exciting. It meant that it was spreading. It meant that other people knew about this, that other people were feeling this, that it meant that I could come to London someday and have like, co-conspirators. And this was the album that sort of announced that to me. It's really precious to me. I still play this one a lot too. And I think that especially being here in London during this trip, just kind of, I saw Carl today and just, was talking to him about how when I came to interview him for the book, he bought me a bacon sandwich because I'd never had one, and it was like, he considered that some sort of fallacy against the world, that someone could have lived their life without eating a bacon sandwich. So I felt like an honorary Londoner or British person in that moment, and that's how this record makes me feel too. Like I get to be a part of this thing that Americans have always lusted after. So thanks, Libertines. Yay! They're so cool.